I have a new hire that loves to talk, and we're training her to speak less.
You ain't tell me to sit down.
You and Ian are some trick. You can't gauge it like, yo, I told y'all to sit down to work my new hire. If you tell me you told me to stay home for something else.
Joe Budden has not only demoted Flip, but he's demoted Emanny. Yeah, on the last episode of, one of the recent episodes of the podcast, Joe Budden is playing damage control with his co-hosts who happen to be his friends who happen to be the best cast in the world. Now he's saying that it wasn't a demotion. He's just telling people to sit down as the chatter from the reaction community gets louder and louder. So how this all started is when Flip was told to sit home for a episode of the podcast but come to the Patreon. Well, he would come late to that episode.
I was in Baltimore. Ian told me to come into Patreon. I called Joe, like, why am I coming to Patreon for? And Joe said, just come into Patreon, I'm going to pay you fully. I end up coming into Patreon late, like an hour and a half late.
And ever since then, now he's being told to only come on Wednesdays. It looks like a demotion to me. But Joe would say that he was just telling him to, just take a break.
And it's not I sat him down, because I'm not agreeing with none of that. Hear it from my mouth. Flip hasn't been demoted. Flip has a lot going on outside of here. So if there's time off to be had, he's at the top of my list to get it.
But he also told Emanny to sit down. But Emanny says, hey, you didn't tell me to sit down. You're using tricky words. You told me to go home because I was dealing with something. But here you're saying you sat me down to give your new hire, Mona, some space. That was another way he positioned it. He said he had a long-winded co-host, Mona. She is long-winded. She does talk too much sometimes. But I think Joe Budden would rather have that problem than the inverse of the problem, which was people don't talk, feel uncomfortable sharing. And what's funny enough is in the last episode of the podcast, you saw Mona going quiet for long periods of time like Flip and Melissa Ford used to. Well, Emanny is pointing out, hey, don't say that you was doing that. You was trying to look out for me when really what you were doing is just creating space for Mona to speak. Also, Flip would say that Joe didn't sit him down. So I assume what that means is that Flip is saying the language that Joe is using on the episodes isn't the actual language being used in their real dynamic when they speak on the phone and whatnot. But I would be cautious to say that it seems like Joe Budden is changing the messaging every time that he speaks about why he's doing this. And that to me means there's a reason he's doing it. And that reason is so controversial that it could frazzle Flip and Emanny's ego. Essentially, the first two guys to sit down are the people who have been through the most issues on the show. That's right. Remember Emanny? He punched a dude and was suspended. Well, he punched a dude off the Joe Budden podcast, but it was on Flip's show. And then there was Flip. Flip has threatened to fight everybody on the podcast, and he almost got into an altercation with Mona behind the scenes. Now, I know a lot of you are going to be saying, well, we don't know if that's completely true, but based on the context clues, you can gather that something went down behind the scenes between Mona and Flip. What's also fascinating is that Joe is in his manipulation bag heavy. One of the most fascinating things about Joe when he's trying to reframe things is when he's saying that because the outcome was positive for you, it doesn't mean that it means that I did nothing wrong.
And I take advantage of the moment.
He did too. He went and chased behind his ex all weekend.
You did? Oh yeah,
he went and chased behind his ex all weekend. I gave one day off. He get.
I didn't chase behind no ex.
Snip and tail.
So in this back and forth, he says, yo, when I sat you down, Flip, you was able to make content for Flip the Network. You was able to do your own thing, man. I did the right thing. I was looking out for you. Then he tells Emanny, when I set you down, Emanny, you was able to go hang out with Mona Divine and Honey Tsunami. Who wouldn't love to hang out with Honey Tsunami? But anyway, that's how you know something is going on. The way Joe Budden is reframing things, the way he's making it seem like he did these guys a favor. At the end of the day, Joe Budden now has a Mona problem, and I don't know if he can solve it, because though she speaks a lot, sometimes it's just like Flip. She's not well researched. She's cutting people off, and she might be stifling the morale in the room because Joe Budden hasn't taken the gloves off. Well, he kind of has a little bit, because you can tell on the last episode, she was rarely speaking and she was very quiet on the music aspects, but we'll see if she's able to evolve. I think she's a bit one-dimensional, and I don't know if she's going to be able to grow. We will have to see if she can interact with other people, if she's able to chime in on certain subjects. I think she can look to Mark for that type of dynamic. He knows how to get in and out of topics. Whereas Mona, she will always stay on the same thing. And it's because she's passionate. There's another thing people are making fun of, the way she's looking on the podcast. I think women in podcasting, they have it I don't want to say rough. They have it different than men, right? Flip and Ish could have plumbers, but they don't have to dress up. Even me, I don't have to dress up really when I do content. But women are under more harsh critique. So it's going to be interesting to see how Mona deals with the backlash against the way she presents herself on air. The reason why it might be a bigger issue is the fact that she is interloping on a new male-dominated audience. The Joe Budden podcast audience is 80 to 90% men. And even though Mona presents as one of the guys, she still is going to be under harsher critique for when she cuts people off because she's brand new. And she doesn't really have tact. So we'll see how that goes. Let me know if you enjoy Mona on the show. It's been a few episodes, and in the comments, I see a lot of Mona backlash. I see so much backlash that when I praise her, people are like, Danny, why are they making you say nice things about Mona? Is that why you don't critique her? So I'm going to be taking more of a critical lens. And I want to end this video by saying something very loud and clear. When they say you are not getting demoted, you are getting demoted. So Joe Budden saying, yo, I'm not demoting Flip. I'm giving him more time to do his thing. Everybody in their life has been at their job and they introduce some type of new policy and they make it seem like it's the flyest thing in the world. Remember when those software apps came around and you had to download them on your computer in order to track what you were doing? The way they sold that was fly. Yo, we gonna download this software. Jerry, you ain't even gonna have to lock in. You ain't even gonna have to check in. We'll know how to clock your time by just you clocking in on that app. But what they didn't tell you is that they would be able to watch what websites you go on, who you chatting with, who you doing this and that with. So overall, I think that's what's happening with Flip and Emanny. They're being told something is happening, but that's not really what's happening. And the greatest concrete evidence of that is the way that Joe Budden keeps shifting the narrative. You're not demoted. Oh, it's not that I told you to sit down. I'm just trying to make room for Mona. Then in the case of Emanny, he told the dude, yo, what happened was I just thought you felt a little, you just seemed like you needed to go home. So I sent you home out of your, looking out for you, man. I did that for you. It wasn't about anything else, but really what it was is he wanted to create more space for Mona. So a lot is going on, y'all. Something really crazy is happening behind the scenes. But let me know what you think. Do you think Flip has been demoted? Do you think Emanny has been demoted? Plus, there's the specter of the new Thursday episode of the podcast that might be coming soon, right? There might be a Thursday episode that is being released. So perhaps Flip and Emanny will be featured more on there to keep them away from clashing with Mona on Fridays. With that said, please tap in with me on Patreon. I just did a space with a former figure of the love and hip hop world, and you need to check it out. The image up is what that was about. I think you'll really like it, and some of you might be surprised. Follow me on Instagram, The Stop TV. Follow me on Twitter, The Stop TV. This is Danny from The Stop. Peace.